And as I was just saying in the description of my last video, there are two main psychologists, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Both of them are the fathers of psychology, okay? Just as Pascal Beverly Randolph, known as P.B. Randolph, is the father of all metaphysical sciences, okay? Now, you have to know that Sigmund and Jung just intellectualized mythology to make it a measurable, practical system instead of keeping it in its original state. Freud got famous, whereas Jung, in a nutshell, just kept it in its spiritual, natural state. And now it's basically the Jungian psychology philosophy versus the Freudian Freud philosophy of psychology. Watch Archive 81, the TV show on Netflix. Archive 81 is all about interdimensional travel, interdimensional beings, and the Jungian philosophy of psychology. It's full of gems on the mind and how it actually works. In mythology, there are two layers of this myth. There's elementary ideas and there's folklore ideas, or folk ideas, meaning that all mythology, no matter what or who you are, is templated with ideas or archetype energies of the higher and lower aspects of yourself. For example, love and the mother, right? These are primordial thought forms that are residual throughout all of our people, throughout all of our regions, throughout all time, no matter where you are. Another good example of these is the Christ, Horus, any hero or savior-like figure. These are elementary ideas, okay? When you think of the father, good, evil, love, the mother, these are ancient primordial thought forms that pop up in every story all around the world. These are the same energies. These are the same thought forms with different names that our ancient ancestors and our indigenous tribes peoples have revered and traditionally recognized as their own for millions and millions of years along the planet, okay? And these ideas are usually layered with folk or traditional ideas like the Orishas or the Greek pantheon, or, for example, Christ and his angels and so on. These are cultural, regional ideas and concepts or thought forms known as folklore or urban legends. These concepts heavily rely on the elementary ideas, okay? But the stories are an essence of the true self. In other words, it's our story. But since we get caught up in what's black, what's white, what's good, what's evil, nobody pays attention to the true sciences they reveal, the secrets of who you are. It's our original stories with added ideas. Some concepts and principles even use different names, skin tones, for example. Shiva is Osiris, but it's all the same people. The reason why polarity, duality is so important, the reason why balancing the left brain and the right brain is so important, and why we are connected to the sun and the moon plays a big role in the anima and the animus, okay? The anima is the feminine part of the human personality of a male, this part of the psyche that is directly inverted and in touch with the subconscious mind, the persona, and the self-image, okay? The anima and the animus merge in slow, smooth ways from time to time. Anima is Latin for soul, mind, or spirit. The animus is hostility, bad intentions, motivation to do something, the masculine part of the female human personality, the rational, conscious mind, a construct of the ego. Whenever you're playing Assassin's Creed, what happens is Assassin's Creed, you enter the animus, all right? Whenever they were in Avatar, what happened? They had to enter the machine, the animus, to enter the higher worlds or the higher realms. This is why sleep plays such an important role, because where you go to bed and you lucid dream, you're actually speaking to your higher selves. You're speaking to your true self in the form of symbolism, which usually plays a key role in mythology if you pay attention to what you're seeing in your dreams. If you've ever played Assassin's Creed, you would know that the character you're playing, you're not really that character. You're actually another person inside that machine that goes into this higher world, this higher dimension, seeing through the eyes of this person's memories, playing out the role of their life or their mythological story. And they tap into this with archetypal energies of personal belongings of theirs, maybe artifacts or something along those lines. This is because whenever you go to sleep at night, every sleep is genuinely a miniature death, which is why the astral world, the dream world, the ancestral world, and the spirit world are all one and the same. Whenever you go to sleep, where do you go at night? Because the majority of what you're doing, these lucid dreams, you're actually talking to yourself. You're actually experiencing your life through the eyes of your higher self and your higher selves and your true self, based on the balancing of your left and right brain, your anima and your animus. That's why it's so easy for certain people to astral project and astral plane, because they've balanced the left and right sides of their brain. They've balanced the 72 angels and the 72 demons to become pure of heart and transcend through the meat suit, okay, to enter the higher worlds, the higher realms, the higher dimensions through the mind. This is why whenever you die, the only thing that's left active science subconscious mind. This is why you build altars and ofrendas and people. Now, as I was saying, Carl Jung calls these elementary ideas, or these archetype energies, the aspects of the self. Basically, he calls them the collective unconsciousness, whereas the psyche would be in reference to the force within an individual that influences your thoughts, your behavior, and your personality. Basically, what animates you, aka the spirit and the ether, or in other words, the anima. Fun fact, anima is Latin for spirit or soul, okay? Also, a construct of the mind. According to Sigmund Freud, the psyche is the totality of the human mind that helps us navigate through life, aka the spirit, the ether, and the soul. He also stated that just like Carl Jung, there are 3 layers of the mind: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. Remember, the brain is not the mind. Like I've stated in previous lessons, the brain is physical matter. The mind is unseen spirit, okay? The brain is particles, matter. The mind is waves, frequency, less dense, also known as spirit. All of us hold the same elementary ideas, even though we are different people and different individuals. We all hold the same key. Which brings me to another key point that I really would like to make and cannot stress enough. I hear a lot of people say things like, I've killed my ego, I had my ego death already, and all that mumbo jumbo. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Because you can't kill your ego. You can't get rid of your ego. This world and everything in this world is a construct and a creation of the ego. Humanity and the whole woke movement in itself is a reflection of the collective consciousness and the ego. The ego is the demiurge. If you don't know what the demiurge is, look into Gnosticism and the demiurge. The demiurge is your consciousness and your ego. All things we experience when we are awake in the beta mind waves is felt, are remembered, and is filtered through the ego. This matrix that we live in, this bastardized creation of the blind god, the jealous god known as Yod the Beof, is the ego. It's a creation of a super ego. So the goal is not to get outside of or kill your ego. It's your defense mechanism. Your ego is what keeps you in survival mode, okay? I'm not saying the ego is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just telling you what the fuck it is. In other words, you need your ego. You can't protect yourself without your ego. You cannot survive without your ego, okay? We are supposed to understand the ego, not hide from it or suppress our ego, because that would be us not healing, right? That would be us suppressing our true nature from who we are actually supposed to be, right? This is why being present is so important, and coming from the heart is so important. Focus on what's good in your life, the positive things, okay? Why? Because nothing is permanent, and tomorrow isn't promised for anyone or anybody. Therefore, be present with your moments. Be present and pure with your intentions and with your energy, alright? And enjoy the goddamn moment. Stop being so convoluted and diluted with your ego and using self-projections because you don't like the way another motherfucker talks. Okay? Shape yourself with the ego. Bypass the ego, aka the conscious mind, the beta mind waves, to get to the true self. In the words of the late great brother Panic, give the baby his bottle. Give the baby his bottle. Simple. If ego is a construct of the conscious mind, which is ran by rational thought and intellect, aka self-image and self-worth and perception, that would mean that it's not about being the smartest nigga in the room, okay? It's about enlightenment. It's about spirituality, which is really your only hope out of this motherfucker, okay? So is this about being an enlightened being, or is this about being the smartest nigga in the room? Is this about being the first to do something, the first to say something, proving the religions wrong, proving Christians wrong, proving Catholics or Hebrew Israelites or proving Wahabians or anybody wrong? Alright? Is it about proving people wrong, or is it about self-enlightenment? Because the way y'all motherfuckers is moving on the internet, it seems like y'all don't know the difference. And I'm here to teach you the motherfucking difference. Okay? A lot of what I've seen and continue to see is not spirituality or enlightenment, but human responsibility and a popularity pissing contest between people to see who can get the most views, who can get the most followers, who said what first, and so on and so forth. Again, mythology is the symbols of the self told in story form, okay? Dreams from your higher self are lucid, vivid dreams, which are really you in a higher reality with key notes of symbolic imagery based off mythology, okay? Once again, remember, you cannot kill or get rid of your ego. You can only slow it down or shut it up with the influence of the mind and let your inner self run.
We could ever figure, we could ever imagine, because you don't see it.
And the single biggest con is, I am you.
The problem is that the ego hides in the last place that you'd ever look, within itself.
It disguises its thoughts as your thoughts, its feelings as your feelings. You think it's you.
People's need to protect their own egos knows no bounds. They will lie, cheat, steal, kill, do whatever it takes to maintain what we call ego boundaries.
People have no clue that they're in prison. They don't know that there is an ego. They don't know the distinction.
At first, it's difficult for the mind to accept that there's something beyond itself, that there's something of greater value and greater capacity for discerning truth than itself.
In religion, the ego manifests as the devil. And of course, no one realizes how smart the ego is because it created the devil so you could blame someone else.
In creating this imaginary external enemy, we usually made a real enemy for ourselves, and that becomes a real danger to the ego, but that's also the ego's creation.
There is no such thing as an external enemy, no matter what that voice in your head is telling you. All perception of an enemy is a projection of the ego as the enemy.
In that sense, you could say that 100% of our external enemies are of our own creation.
Your greatest enemy is your own inner perception, is your own ignorance, is your own ego.
The ego is the worst confidence trickster we could ever figure, we could ever imagine, because you don't see it.
And the single biggest con is, I am you.
The problem is that the ego hides in the last place if you'd ever look, within itself.
It disguises its thoughts as your thoughts, its feelings as your feelings. You think it's you.
People's need to protect their own egos knows no bounds. They will lie, cheat, steal, kill, do whatever it takes to maintain what we call ego boundaries.
People have no clue that they're in prison. They don't know that there is an ego. They don't know the distinction.
At first, it's difficult for the mind to accept that there's something beyond itself, that there's something of greater value and greater capacity for discerning truth than itself.
In religion, the ego manifests as the devil. And of course, no one realizes how smart the ego is because it created the devil so you could blame someone else.
In creating this imaginary external enemy, we usually made a real enemy for ourselves, and that becomes a real danger to the ego, but that's also the ego's creation.
There is no such thing as an external enemy, no matter what that voice in your head is telling you. All perception of an enemy is a projection of the ego as the enemy.
In that sense, you could say that 100% of our external enemies are of our own creation.
Your greatest enemy is your own inner perception, is your own ignorance, is your own ego.
What up, students? Continuing back where we left off, remembering that mythology is the symbols of self told in story form, okay? So when you have a dream, your dreams from the higher self are actually going to be your lucid, vivid dreams, or a higher reality, in a sense, with keynotes of symbolic imagery based off of the mythology, okay? Once again, remember, you cannot kill or get rid of your ego. You can only slow it down or shut it down. Or shut down the influence of it with your mind and lead it and let it be led and ran by your true inner self. Okay? Let your true inner self dictate. A good example of the ego is the post I just uploaded about the movie Revolver with Jason Statham. This is a great film about the ego versus the true self, especially at the end. I cannot stress to you enough the importance of the 7 Hermetic principles and the 48 laws of power and the 12 universal laws, okay? Everything you need is inside of you. It is within. This is how you do your inner work, by studying the signs and symbols of yourself. Studying the signs and symbols of self, AI being mythology and your dreams, okay? Symbolism. Start researching mythology. All folklore, all folk tales and urban legends are fairy tales, or allegories of self told in story form. And understand that spirituality is not a part of your logical, rational thinking mind. That's a part of your conscious mind, which comes along with the ego. Spirituality really has nothing to do with logic or reason. Reality is stranger than science fiction when it comes down to what's really going on. The more you overanalyze, rationalize, or the more your ego influences or you use reason in your way of life, you're actually slowing down your process. All this shit I hear, like, I want to save my people, I'm the master teacher, he's the master teacher, y'all need to do this right now, you need to do that right now, you need to stop doing this. It's all just a reflection of your ego. It's all the ego, and really your individual responsibilities, okay? Your individual responsibility to stay healthy, your individual responsibility to stay sober and to educate your fucking self. This is not spirituality. These are human responsibilities which have nothing to do at all with being spiritual or having anything to do with self-enlightenment. This is self-improvement, and it's always important to improve yourself on an individual level, but you need to understand and know the fucking difference. There is only one source, there's only one power, there's only one truth, and what we might explain in different ways. But overall, we're all saying the same thing. That's because we're all coming from the same truth with the same energies, and nothing. Which brings me to another point. Y'all, stop all this cross-playing shit. Stop all this cross-playing shit. Your persona is not you. It's a mask, okay? By which the actor or the actress wears by, saying things like king, God, goddess. You know what I'm saying? But the true king, the true God, the true goddess, the true queen, wear no clothes. The emperor, the empress, we don't wear no mask. We don't wear the disguise. Why? Because we don't need to do that. We don't need to disguise ourselves or seek fucking false validation outside, because we know thyself. All this shit, people be like, Hotep, Ashe, beloved, peace, God. This shit is, if they use it like a fucking credentials card. This shit ain't no Clubhouse, bro. You got a diluted product of the ego with social media. You got all these people thinking they Horus and all these cultural masks. You know what I'm saying? Thinking that they're this and they're that, saying that they're these gods when you don't see no motherfucking godly behavior. If so, why is the state of the world in the state that it's in right now? So when you hear people saying shit like overstand, understand, grand rising, Ashe, all these Hebrew Israelites and these religious fucking cults, a lot of these so-called spiritual communities are wearing masks. They haven't even truly dealt with what the fuck's really going on. They haven't even got down to the core of their shadow. They're playing an image. It's fucking goofy. This goofy shit, like Ashe, Ashuk, peace, God, grand rise. And no, this is not a direct attack towards anybody or any of my friends or any of my followers. If I follow you and you follow me, I fuck with you. I am not attacking anybody. I'm just calling it how I see it. I live here. Y'all live here. Y'all walk around. Y'all see this goofy shit. Name me one motherfucker that genuinely talks like how they talk on the internet. Like you talk to your mom, you tell your mama grand rising. You tell him, hey God, hey peace God. That's how y'all talking? I know that's how I'm talking. But listen, a lot of these motherfuckers is really capping. Like they're really faking. In fact, a lot of these ex-Christians, a lot of these ex-Catholics, a lot of these ex-religious people who are dick riding spirituality and enlightenment right now, using it as a means to get monetized, wanting to be initiated in these so-called sacred indigenous practices, they want to be a part of something. They want a sense of belonging. They put these practices and they're not a part of any of it, really. They're not a part of any mystery school. They don't have people in their life that actually do these things and practice these things. You know what I'm saying? They show up with the same indoctrinated shadow self bullshit and bring it into spirituality. And when you bring this shit into spirituality, it makes the real ones like me and a couple of my followers look like we don't know what we're talking about. And I'm sick of that shit. So because you haven't done the inner work, you want to make the whole spiritual community look like shit? I'm not fucking having it. I'm calling out these false prophets. Hey students, how y'all doing? I'm back again, you already know. We're continuing off with my fucking bonus lesson. And right now we're going to dive into choice. You see, choice is actually an illusion. There is no true choice in life. Most people are really just expressing this so-called rebellion, I'd say, and an illusion of choice. A lot of people don't really want to be from India and Africa. They don't want to be these indigenous beings that they say they are, because if they truly did, they wouldn't have this Americanized mindset of fucking choice. Okay? Too much ego, for example. All these ancient tribes people that they claim to be from, they have arranged marriages, for one. They all wear the same clothes, for two. They all eat the same food, and etc., etc., etc. You know what I'm saying? Things that your typical Americanized person doesn't want to do because they don't want to listen. That's the ego. You don't have a choice, especially when you do your shadow work and you start to realize who you really are and you confront that true self. You're going to realize that you've been leading yourself to what you were supposed to do this whole time. And in fact, every choice that you were making was a result, really a representation of your ego, okay? Unlike our so-called choices that we make here in America, whenever we were back in the days of old, you know, whenever we were all one and we were a tribe, how a lot of people crossplay to be nowadays, even though you walk in public and you see another brother in help or need and you act like you don't see him. Anyways, everything was unified. There really was no ego back then. Okay? We all ate the same stuff. We dressed the same way. You know what I'm saying? We did the same things. It was a collective because the ego was shut down. Okay? Nobody was special. We all had an equal task of value and a role to play. You know what I'm saying? For example, if you saw an elder, that was your elder. That was your mama's elder. That was everybody's elder, and it was treated as such. Your mother was everybody's mother, and she was treated as such. Your father was everybody's father. Your brother was everybody's brother. That's where you get the term, it takes a village to raise a child. Meanwhile, we're so separated due to the illusion of choice here in America. Everybody think they know everything, but if we knew everything, why are we so separated and conquered? You know, there's a key jewel I'll drop on you. Whoever anchors you conquers you. What's been conquering y'all lately? And with that one, we're going to continue with choices. They shut down the ego. They shut down the ego by everyone having a specific role to play that was held equal in value within the community. You see, we didn't have a choice. It was your duty. It was your duty. It was your culture. It simply had to be done. It wasn't a matter of if we wanted to do it or if we wanted to marry them, or it didn't matter. It was the way of the people, and this is what had to be done for the better of us. We shut down the ego. It took a village, each one teach one, to raise a child, okay? The main reason America is the way it is and why everyone's acting so fucking crazy and so fucking delusional is because we have let our egos run wild. Nah, I don't want to read that book. A white man wrote it. Nah, that nigga's capping because I never heard him say anything like that before. Nah, she a hoe because she strips. Nah, that nigga can't be conscious because he used to be a gang member, because he smokes weed. He can't be woke. All of that are projections of the ego to keep you from growing, because I don't know, maybe the domino did fall and people did change, but because everything we experience on a conscious level is filtered through our ego, and we are not united. We do not have unity consciousness. It's every man for himself out here. We project our unhealed factors. Our unhealed factors show up in our reality in a person, place, or a thing, so you can see how you act. You know what I'm saying? That's the law. Yeah, that's a real gem of the law of attraction right there. It's not just your thoughts. It's not just your emotions. It's also your actions. Your input is equal to your output. What you do will come back to you. You are what you attract. Yeah, real shit. Anyways, a lot of what's going on is really people's refusal to accept true gnosis, to accept true knowledge, because of their lack of discipline. Therefore, they don't really want to identify as being a sovereign citizen. You got a lot of people who don't want to identify as being indigenous because the masses are immature as fuck. And truly, they don't want authority over them. They don't want anyone to tell them, yo, you have a due date. You got to do this at this time. Nah, see, a lot of the masses ain't really sitting well with that. They can't handle following directions. They can't handle a due date. Showing up to somewhere on time, in a timely manner, looking accordingly. That's too much hard work for the masses nowadays. I guess they can't handle being told or guided to do something, so they choose to be asleep. They choose to stay sheep and listen to the government and the deep state with the false illusion of choice, because they'd rather have that than to actually face their own bullshit and heal.